Well, again, good morning. We'll restart this. Good morning, and thank you for being with us this morning on on a gloomy Friday to talk about positivity during a kind of a gloomy time, as we all know. But we also thought that during this challenging time of uncertainty and stress, that we thought a talk on positivity was timely because sometimes even the most optimistic person right now may be struggling. So yesterday, because there was such success with some of our extension specialists on working with their tots, I thought I would start today's presentation with a little video on positivity with kids and diapers. So let's see if we can get this rolling. It may be a little loud, so beware. You may have to adjust your microphone, but here we go. Here's a great example of optimism and turning negatives into positives. Okay, now I know we can't all walk around in diapers, or we shouldn't be. Maybe you are since you're working at home. I don't know. But I do like that video because I think it gives us that innocence of kids and the way that they sometimes approach things. And I do think there's some things that we can learn from that. And while we need to keep ourselves educated and on top of what's going on with the corona pandemic or the coronavirus pandemic, so that we can stay informed and so that we can protect ourselves, I also do think we've got to find ways to turn some of this into the positive so that we have the necessary energy and the resolve to weather the storm. Oops. So I want to point out that there's power in positive thinking, and that, again, as that was evident in that Huggies commercial, that the way in which positive thinking can help us is that it enhances our coping skills and a person's resourcefulness. It certainly can help with stress management during hard times, and it can improve our overall health and well-being. And so as we go through this talk today, I want you to think about whether or not your glass is half empty or half full. According to the Mayo Clinic, how you answer this age-old question about positive thinking can really reflect on your outlook on life and your attitude toward yourself, and whether you're optimistic or whether you're pessimistic. And even that, whether you're positive or negative thinking kind of person, can really affect your health and your overall well-being. Again, this doesn't mean we want to keep our head in the sand about what's going on with our unpleasant situation, but positive thinking can really just mean that you approach the unpleasantness in a more positive and a productive way. It's not that you try to look at the good that can happen or the best in a situation, not just the worst. So again, too, positive thinking leads to positive emotions, and positive emotions are able to broaden our minds and build ourselves to become more resourceful people in a way that can also help us with resiliency and adversity as well. So positive thinking starts with self-talk, and self-talk, if you're not sure what that means, it's the endless stream of these unspoken thoughts that run through our heads. And these automatic thoughts can either be negative or positive. And sometimes self-talk comes from logic and reason, but other times our self-talk may arise from misconceptions that are created because of a lack of information. So again, during this time, sometimes we may start to go on that negative side of self-talk just because of what we're constantly hearing in the news and what's surrounding us, or what the neighbors are telling us, or what you're being texted and so forth. And so we want to point out that if your thoughts are mostly positive, you're likely to approach things more optimistically. You're someone who's going to practice positive thinking. Whereas if you tend to head on that more negative thought process, your outlook on life is going to be much more pessimistic. And some people might not even be sure if their self-talk is positive or negative because you've self-talked your whole life, a certain way. And so the Mayo Clinic was really clear on identifying both positive and negative self-talk. And so here are a couple of examples on what negative thinking might look like. And so if you filter, that means you're going to really magnify the negative aspects of a situation, and you filter all the positive ones out. So you only look through a negative lens. Personalizing is when you think something bad has occurred and it's automatically your fault. You blame yourself. You hear something's canceled. Well, somehow you had something to do with that. Catastrophizing is when you automatically anticipate the worst. Even if it starts out simple in the day, your favorite coffee flavor wasn't at the coffee shop, and now you think your whole day is going to be ruined because of it. Even, now you can translate that with coronavirus. You have to work at home, and how are you ever going to get anything done? Instead of finding a positive way of what can be more productive at home. Polarizing is when you see things only as either good or you see things only as bad. There's no middle ground. So the Mayo Clinic says that it's really important to focus on positive thinking and that you can learn how to turn negative thinking into positive thoughts or positive thinking. And while that sounds sort of simple, I think it's important to recognize that this takes time and this takes practice. You're basically creating a new habit, especially if you're someone who is a negative thinker and that's all you sort of know and that's what you rely on. So here's some ways in which the Mayo Clinic identifies how to think more positively. And so they recommend that you identify areas to change if you want to become more optimistic. You've got to engage in this positive thinking. And sometimes you may just have to start small and you think about things in your life that cause you to think negatively. So for example, it could be your drive to work causes you stress or frustration. It could be work itself, or it could be some part of your relationship. And so they're saying focus on one area and try to approach that more positively instead of just looking at the whole big picture. That might be an easier way to begin transforming your thoughts. They also recommend to check yourself periodically during the day. Stop and evaluate what you're thinking, but also how you're thinking. And if you find that your thoughts are mostly negative, try to find a way to put a positive spin on those thoughts. Also, be open to humor. Give yourself permission to laugh or to smile, and especially during these difficult times. I had to get a kick out of Jimmy Fallon right now. I'm a huge late night fan, and he's been doing late night from home so that he can social distance, and he's really been funny because he's been having his kids help with the band, and they're making the signs for him and cue cards. And last night he even talked about, instead of a martini, you might need a quarantini. I think I saw the other day that Rita Wilson, who's been quarantined in Australia with Tom Hanks, she made a quarantunes list. And I know even in Extension, as we've been looking at the way we need to revamp some of our programs, we looked at, in some of our program ideas, we talked about with David Weisenhorn, quality quarantine time. So there's ways that we can be a little bit light about some of the things that are happening. It's also really important, and I know Natalie Jones has pointed this out a lot, to follow a healthy lifestyle. We really want to have people aim for exercising at least 30 minutes on most days of the week. We know that exercise can positively affect mood and it can reduce stress. We also want people to follow a healthy diet to fuel your mind and to fuel your body, to learn stress management techniques, and to also get enough sleep. I think sometimes we're sequestered at home right now and we get caught up with home projects or watching movies or whatever people are doing in work, and then sleep sometimes is still going by the wayside. It's also important to surround yourself with positive people. We tend to get like people we were around. Your parents may have told you that. I know my parents told me that, and it's true. So we really want to be with supportive people that you can depend on, people who are going to give you helpful advice, helpful feedback, but also people who are going to listen to you, because you may have things that are of concern and stress, and you've got to get some things off your chest, especially during this uncertain time, and this surreal time, and how it's making you feel. And then lastly, just practicing positive self-talk. Don't be a Debbie Downer. You may remember that Saturday Night Live skit, but you don't want to say things to yourself that you wouldn't necessarily want, or you don't want to say anything to yourself that you wouldn't want to say to anyone else. You want to be gentle. You want to be encouraging with yourself. If negative thoughts and words start to enter your head, try to evaluate that and respond with some affirmations of what's good and what's good about you and what's good and what you're thankful for in your life. So I wanted to include this as well because this is a chart, again, from the Mayo Clinic, but it talks about ways in which it gives some ideas, some examples on how to put positive thinking into practice. And again, what we want you to see is that as a result of positive self-talk, positivity can lead to these enhanced coping skills and a person's ability to be more resourceful. And it also can help with stress management during hard times. It can empower you, and it can help provide you with a feeling of control just by switching negative thoughts into positive thinking. So again, just to point out a couple of examples here on the chart, if the way in which you approach things is, I've never done this before, we've never had this happen to us before, look at this then as an opportunity to learn something new. If you don't have the resources, then look at it as, okay, how can I be more inventive? How can I make the resources happen? If there's no way this is going to work, yeah, there is. Find a way that you can make this work. And this is really an opportunity for you to pull together as a family with your networks to really, find ways to move forward and power on. So somehow the title on this got deleted in the slideshow presentation, but across the top it should read, "A positive attitude has many health benefits." And we want to point out that we know that a positive attitude can lower rates of depression, lower rates of distress and negative stress. As I've already mentioned, it contributes to coping skills in times of stress and distress. It increases our immune system, or enhances our immune system, helps us become more resistant to things like the common cold. It enhances our overall happiness, health, and well-being. It influences our ability to be successful in work, in school, and with our personal goals. And again, those are some trying times right now as we're moving toward online classes and working from home and so forth. And it also provides some mental and physical competence. So we really want to work at and look at how, or just how strong the mind-body connection is, and how that is influenced by overall positive attitude, and how this upbeat outlook on life can really affect that. It is thought that positive and optimistic people tend to live healthier lifestyles. It's been demonstrated over time that positive people get more physical activity, follow a healthier diet, they don't smoke or drink alcohol in excess. And I pointed that out, or I wanted to put that quote on a separate slide, because you're going to see a couple of different times here, and you already have, that one of the ways in which we can be more positive is to take care of ourselves and to, as I said, get enough exercise, get enough sleep. And so again, we know that there's a correlation there. So now I'm going to talk about some ways that we can become more positive. And so one of those ways is working on accepting change. And again, this sounds, it sometimes sounds easier than it may really be, but we know life is filled with ups and downs. That's why there's a roller coaster for the slide picture on this one. And we know that times can be challenging, and so we've got to learn how we can accept change, how we can learn from our mistakes. But I think it's also important to say, how do we learn from the past? We're going through this pandemic right now, but we've gone through other things too, like 9/11 and other natural disasters, hurricanes, and so forth. So what did we learn from those experiences? How did we grow stronger in the face of those disasters and those challenges that we can apply to what we're going through right now? Again, a positive attitude allows you to meet these challenges, both the good and the bad, with less resistance. In this position, you're much more open to learn from our mistakes, again, learn from our past, so that we can see what the possibilities are, and like that slide says, even see what some new, maybe even some better opportunities are. And we've got to be able to approach this not with apprehension, strain, and stress, because that's what's going to leave us much more susceptible and overwhelmed, and even lead to other mental health issues, including depression. So we can often take on a positive attitude when we do, or when we think in positive ways, or when we think in the following ways. So we want to be able to adapt to this positive and practical and creative thinking. And I think creative is an important word to use when we talk about positive thinking as well. Sometimes we have to be creative. We have to think outside the box to be able to, accept things and to make some of these changes. We've got to be able to embrace optimism. That glass really needs to be half full. We have to stay motivated. We have to stay purposeful. It's interesting to me when I see the word purpose and when I talk about a talk on positivity, because one of the things that we've learned from our centenarians, people who are 100 years and older from longevity studies, is that having a sense of purpose, figuring out what gets you out of bed in the morning, having a positive attitude, are two aspects that older adults really contribute to their healthy and long lives. And when you think about some of the things that someone over 100 years old has experienced in this country or in their lifetime, it's pretty amazing that those are two things that they say has gotten them through: having a positive attitude and having something that gets them out of bed in the morning. And I'm going to talk about purpose here in a little bit, or in addition, some more in a little bit. Finding energy to get things done, accomplishing goals, and again, choosing happiness so that you have that general feeling. Happiness really is a choice. So I want to talk about that, how we choose to be happy. And so here are a couple of examples. We want to start our day on a positive note. We want to, focus on the good. I think if we get out of bed and those first steps on the ground are, okay, I can do this, I can tackle today. Again, in the Japanese culture, they call it ikigai. It's spelled Ikagai, and that is basically purpose. And I said I was going to talk about purpose a lot, but that's what gets me out of bed in the morning, what moves me, what motivates me. And I think that's a really great way to start the day. Like, okay, what do I tackle today? What am I going to do today? We've got to embrace life's challenges. We've got to learn new things. I think, again, in the time that we're in right now, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves with everything that's coming in, again, on text and through the news. But if we can keep on top of what we need to know to keep healthy and to keep safe and to know what's going on in our communities and in the world. So I think that helps with learning new things. But we can also take this time when we're quarantined at home to do some things that we may not have made time to do before. We may learn to do some new things at home and to challenge ourselves or to work on some projects and so forth. I've already talked about surrounding yourself with positive people, choosing to do some things that make you happy. And those can include things such as volunteering and staying engaged. I think it's really important that we are gracious, helpful, and kind. You're seeing lots of, on the news, I assume you're hearing lots of examples of random acts of kindness. I think that we can use those examples and try to learn from those and do as others are doing. I think it was in Spain that people who can't leave their homes, they all went on their balconies and hung out their windows, and they did this giant applause for all their healthcare workers. And I can't imagine how meaningful that would be as a healthcare worker during that stressful time to have such a feeling of appreciation. I think other ways that we can do that are looking after neighbors and supporting local businesses as much as we can. And the news and is giving ideas on different ways that we can do that. I think about, who could benefit from your generosity. We've got all of our delivery folks out there who, have to continue to go to work and deliver packages to us. Can you leave them a coffee or just do something or even a note on your door in your mailbox that says, thank you for still delivering my mail. That little acts of kindness like that go such a long, long way and definitely show graciousness and helpfulness and kindness, but also there's an intrinsic reward to that as well, that can help with positivity. It's also important to find ways to laugh and have fun. And I gave a couple of examples of what, Jimmy Fallon or Rita Wilson are doing. But you can watch videos. Someone else told me this is now the time to, buy stock in Netflix and TikTok and all those silly, YouTube videos that people can watch, people can make. Send gifts in the mail, send cards. There's different ways that we can still find fun in life. And again, take care of yourself. I told you that was also going to be a theme that I would talk about. So get exercise, be physically active, get outside and get some sunshine as much as you can. Get enough sleep and certainly eat and eat well and eat healthy so that you can fuel your brain. I think it's also important to take a daily inventory, again, of what's going on with you and taking that time for you. I also wanted to point out that this is a recommendation straight from the CDC. So they recognize that people are really stressed during this time. And in particular, some of the folks who are stressed include older adults and people with chronic diseases who are at higher risk for the COVID-19, children and teens, and people who may not just understand exactly what's going on, people who are helping with the pandemic right now, like doctors and other healthcare providers and their first responders, and people who have mental health conditions, including problems with substance abuse. So these are people that the CDC recognizes as higher risk or people who are maybe at higher risk of reacting to this stressful situation. And they certainly have fears, and we all do, about the worry of our own health and the health of our loved ones. They identify that people are seeing changing in sleep patterns, difficulty with concentrating, worsening chronic conditions, increased use of alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use. And so they're really trying to promote, the CDC is really trying to promote how to stay positive and how to take care of yourself, how to take care of your friends, how to take care of your family, and how you can help them cope with stress, so that we can make ourselves and our community stronger. And that's one reason we're doing this video recording today as well. So again, according to the CDC, they're recommending that you take breaks and limit yourself from the information intake. Maybe you just set a couple of times a day that you're going to check in on the news or check your phone to see what the latest information is on the pandemic, and then sort of separate yourself from it, at least temporarily, so that you can be functional during the day and not just be so flooded with the stress or how overwhelming some of this information may be. Again, the CDC is also recommending that we need to take care of ourselves, stay physically active, eat healthy, sleep, avoid drugs and alcohol. They're also recommending that we make time to unwind, and we promote that in a lot of our healthy aging programs, that we've got to take at least 10 minutes for you during the day, and that doesn't stop now during a pandemic either. You've got to think about the way in which you feel most like you during times like this, and try to find ways to do that. And if you can't go to the gym, if that's one way that you do that, Natalie Jones has given some great ways on how you can do that at home instead. So there's ways, again, that we've got to adapt to the changes and adapt to the times. And again, talk about your feelings. If you're able to surround yourself with positive people, those people should be able to listen to you and to your feelings just as much as you are able to listen to them as well. So do you have a positive attitude? We are going to put up, after this talk is over, I think there's going to be a link or a way that you can access this quiz. And this quiz is an attitude check that we got from from Alberta, the government in Alberta, who gave us permission to use this for our Keys to Embracing Aging program. But basically what you want to do is you're going to go through and answer these questions and just give your gut reaction. Are you friendly? And you're going to say mostly yes. If that answer is mostly yes, you'll mark it as a 3. If sometimes you're friendly, you mark it as a 2. And if you're really not that friendly, you're going to mark it as a 1. And you're going to go through all of those. Are you friendly? Do you try not to complain? Can you be optimistic when others are not? And you're going to score that and just go with your gut reaction. And then you're going to add up your score. And then you can see on the side, I provided the final scoring and what that score means. So if you score, for an example, between a 95 to 105, you're positively terrific. That wasn't my wording, by the way. And so this kind of gives you this attitude check so that you can see where do you fall according to, just a simple quiz like this. And then can you take those, look at your scores and the way in which you scored it. If you're saying, for the first one, for example, are you friendly, and you mark mostly no, think about that. Why aren't you mostly friendly? What are ways, or number 2, do you complain? Are you optimistic? Those are the first 3 examples or questions. If your answers are no to those, again, go back like we talked about earlier and evaluate that. Think about that. Think about why that's your answer, or why that is that you think that way. And are there ways that you can adjust that and adjust that thinking, or practice not thinking that way? So again, this quiz will be posted after this talk. And that was my talk. This is a way in which we're hoping that we can motivate you to practice positive thinking and keep marching on. We're going through some tough times, but as you've heard before, we're going to get through this, and I think we can get through it much better with a positive attitude. So let me check if there are any questions. I see a text that came in from Maria. I don't see anything.
All right. Thank you, Amy. I think that we all have learned a lot today, and I'm excited about trying some of the things that you have suggested. Maybe I can become a little bit more positive because it is a little gloomy today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We are going to be having a special presentation tomorrow at 10 on social distancing. And so if you want to come back and join us tomorrow, and I know it's Saturday, but we think that might be a great opportunity for a lot of people to learn something about social distancing. So if you're available, please join us tomorrow at 10. Otherwise, we hope that you will have a great rest of the day. And
Amy, one thing they asked was about the PowerPoint.
I'm sorry, what, Sally?
They asked if they could have the PowerPoint.
Yeah, we can share that for sure.
Okay.
What is that, something you guys can post, or how does that work?
Yes, it will be posted after the presentation. Well, once everything processes,
Okay.
we'll post it separately. We will also post it on the the public coronavirus page that you can be found at ca.uky.edu, and that will be along with the recording of this presentation. If anybody has additional questions, they can always contact their local extension office. While everybody might have their doors closed, they're still available for reach by phone or by social media. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.